They have no voices anymore, nor are they visible to us. They are gone, lost to an extinction in a tormentously unforgiving world. These creatures, the heroes, despite being past and gone, still have a story though. And it's one that insists upon being told. A story not of bardic speaking, but rather one seen through the decrepit structures and the remnants of their once great civilization. Minecraft is a game that has lore, though it often goes unseen. The lore of Minecraft is a wonderfully obscure thing, and it's one of the main reasons that I, personally, am interested in the game. And the clearest bit of lore that I assume most people have thought about, even just briefly, is a group called heroes. Now, heroes, if you know Minecraft lore, are pretty consistently the main characters, and almost every major theory has something to do with them. MatPat famously uses the term ancient builders, and many have followed that trend. But some other theorists will take a slightly different approach and call them heroes, called such in reference to the species name within most Minecraft media, including Dungeons and Legends, where the player character is referred to as a hero pretty consistently, even by enemies of the race such as the Illagers or Piglins. Even if you haven't seen Reddit theories before, nor anything from YouTube, you may have come to your own conclusions or even questions, just for a passing moment asking, who created the desert temples or the ancient cities? And what are all the shipwrecks scattered about doing, and why are those who once sailed them no longer alive? Well, my name is Illager. I will be your host today, as in my first proper YouTube video I would like to discuss the nature of these so-called heroes, hopefully bringing a beam of light to their odd history, explaining everything from wars to withers, all the way to their ultimate demise, one that came from their own hubris-filled hands as they found enemies not just in the mobs, but also in their own kind. Heroes are pretty much indisputably the center characters of the game's lore. Alongside piglins and illagers, they are the creatures that push the events of the timeline along and keep things moving, for better or for worse. They are often credited with the creation of many structures from the game, such as, in addition to those that I mentioned before, the trail ruins, ocean monuments, and nether fortresses. It's pretty obvious that these people existed, but if they did exist, why don't they exist now? Clearly something happened. This is the question that most people ask first, and I think it's a pretty good opening question. So, what are the options? MatPat, before his retirement, suggested a wither as the cause of the race's death. Others have suggested a virus from the undead came to turn them into the zombies and whatnot that we see in modern Minecraft. And a third theory has also been presented, though it's less often taken seriously, stating there could have been a war between two clans of heroes. I'll save that one for last, but make sure to keep it in mind. Put simply, what I want to do is look into all three of these options and figure out which is the most plausible theory using the evidence we have from Minecraft and also its spin-offs. With the rough understanding of who the heroes were, let's now dive into what ended them. The wither theory is probably the theory I disagree with most. It's backed by MatPat and Retro Gaming Now, both being theorists for whom I have great love, and yet I still find this theory to be very flawed, and heck, looking at comments under their respective videos, it seems I'm not even alone. Firstly, the biggest problem: why couldn't the heroes kill the wither? It's not that hard to kill, and if they did manage to get wiped out, why don't we see the wither today? The whole theory is based around the idea that the wither wiped out the heroes, and yet when we realize how absurd that is, it kind of just falls apart. The wither doesn't despawn, and if the heroes did end up dying fighting it, wouldn't it still be around today? Plus, if we need even more evidence, the wither kills everything that lives indiscriminately, not just heroes. If the wither were such a huge problem, it would only make sense for the animals to be gone alongside the heroes. Whatever killed the heroes must have been able to kill them all while keeping the other mobs relatively unaffected, but also not become a problem later through issues of despawning. No, the wither theory is not flawless, especially when everything is taken account. Weefy's, a fellow theorizer, even cites wither roses, which I've neglected to mention. They're a whole different can of worms. Obviously this isn't right, so I guess let's move on. Another theory, one with genuine merit, is an older one that is pretty much undeniable. How would one go about rebutting a zombie invasion when the zombies are very clearly there, canon as ever? Zombies, or the undead as a whole, are not to be underestimated and could probably get pretty far on their own when trying to decimate the entire heroic race. Zombies are shown to be very dangerous inside of Minecraft media, and while the average player might be able to kill one or two fairly easily, we must remember that these zombies have numbers on their sides, and are also not nerfed for proactive reasons. I believe that zombies are easy to fight only because it makes the game easier. Zombies are the common enemy of Minecraft, and there's evidence to this idea in the novels where the heroes and illagers fear the undead. They wouldn't fear them if they were not a threat. Chapter 1 of The Rise of the Arch-Illager, a canon novel by author Matt Forbeck, shows a raiding party of illagers get decimated by the undead. Clearly our inferences are not without a basis. So the undead are our killers, right? Well, kind of. See, the undead are strong, certainly, but even so, the heroes probably could have been able to beat them. Heroes were strong creatures, so it wouldn't make sense for the undead to be able to kill off the entire race alone. Emphasis on that word, alone. Remember the third theory I posited? The war theory certainly seems to have merit, and while the undead probably couldn't have taken the entire overworld had it been inhabited by focused heroes, perhaps it's not entirely implausible to suggest that they would be able to take advantage of a distracted race, one focused more on the killing of its own species in a war than in the defense of its people from the walking dead. I believe that, and I mentioned this years ago in my original Planet Minecraft blog series, the heroes were at war with one another, with two groups fighting not only each other, but also the undead, who took anyone they could find. A war on two fronts, as you may have it. With the heroes fighting each other, the undead could easily defeat anyone who let down his guard. On top of that, even if a person wasn't killed by an active zombie, but rather an enemy of war, he might still become a zombie. The war would have had plenty of deaths, and it's definitely likely that anyone who died would only come back to hunt his brethren. The undead hordes would grow exponentially, as every dead hero would become another zombie, and every zombie could kill another two heroes, leading to a massive increase in undead numbers as the heroes quickly began to dwindle. It would not be right for me to suggest a war without having more evidence to back it up. Don't worry though, because I have brought plenty. Firstly, the structures. It is clear that there were two clans, and, more importantly, that they didn't care for one another. Evident especially in the fact that there are two kinds of most structures. One group would make a vital structure, and then the other would make a slightly different one to serve the same purpose. The people from clan number 1 could not use clan number 2's buildings, but still had many of the same necessities, and therefore would make a similar structure to those of number 2, but with different architecture, making it in their own style. On that note, the architecture is also something to mention. Yes, we do have two underground portal-based structures, those being the strongholds and ancient cities respectively, and yes, we have two ethereal castle-like structures, the bastion remnants and the nether fortresses, both playing the same roles for different tribes, but even more interesting, and I dare say subtle, are the architectural differences between these two clans. The first structures, save for villages, were likely the temples. Jungle temples and their desert variants probably emerged quickly, and if we compare the later structures with these early ones, it's evident that two ideologies are displayed in the architecture consistently, all throughout the timeline. Redstone is probably the jungle people's biggest giveaway. It's in a fair few structures, from jungle temples to trial chambers and later still the ancient cities, and it's evident that the jungle tribe loved its circuits. Looking at the desert people though, you'll see they didn't fancy redstone as much, favouring advanced architecture and simple traps over what might be called frivolous wiring. Because of this, and the other things I've mentioned, it's clear that there were two different groups, but what exactly does this mean for us? Well, aside from the blatant, wow, that's cool, it sets up a fundamentally different world than the one that we thought we knew, and allows us to better understand the culture of the heroes and explain why they are no longer here, even when the other prevailing theories fail. The heroes are the crux of almost every theory, that's why this is my first video, and so it's important to get them right, otherwise everything is built upon a faulty base and sadly comes crumbling down later. I like to, when theorizing, use the philosophy of Occam's razor, which states we should go for the most plausible theory rather than the one that requires logical jumps. As I said, the Wither theory is cool, but it's also very flawed, and while a three-headed heck creature seems epic, who really needs that when you have a logically sound idea of a war between two groups, both condemned to a fate of undeath from themselves and zombies? I'd say that's a pretty cool theory, personally. The war theory, mixed alongside the undead, gives us the perfect setting, though, for further theorizing, which I intend to do. As I wrap this up, I would like to thank all of my other fellow theorists for inspiration. I would not have been able to do this had I not found a basis in others' theories and received support from other members of the community, such as Zatrix. I also invite you in the comments to share your thoughts. This video is not meant to tell you the absolute truth, but rather help you into thinking about the possibilities yourself so you can contribute to the lore of the game just as others have, really just making up your own theories. Whatever you do, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this theory, especially as it was my first proper video, but with nothing else to say, remember to keep on loring, and I will see you next time. Bye.